The rain in Chicago doesn't wash things clean, it just makes the grit stick to you. I stood on the sidewalk outside the townhome I had spent the last 5 years decorating, shivering in a coat that wasn't thick enough for November. My suitcase, a single, hastily packed duffel bag, sat in a puddle at my feet. Before we unlock the vault and reveal a legacy written in blood and gold, if you believe that the quietest people often hold the loudest secrets, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what happens when the poor wife checks her balance. Now, let's get into the story. The door opened one last time. My husband, Marcus Sterling, stood there. He was warm, dry, and dressed in a bespoke suit that cost more than my father had made in a year. "Don't come back, Amara," he said, his voice devoid of any affection. "My lawyer will mail you the divorce decree. You signed the prenup. You get what you came with. Which is nothing." Behind him, I saw her. Bianca. His chief financial officer. She was sipping coffee from my favorite mug. She didn't say anything. She just smirked, a predator who had finally ousted the weakling from the pack. "You're throwing me out without a cent?" I asked, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. "Marcus, I have nowhere to go. My father is dead. I have no family." "That's not my problem anymore," Marcus sneered. "You were a trophy wife, Amara. But the trophy is tarnished. I need a partner. Someone who understands high finance. Not what were you? A library archivist? You're a liability. Go find a shelter." He slammed the door. I heard the heavy, expensive deadbolt slide home. After the divorce, my husband threw me out without a cent. I stood there for a moment, letting the rain soak my hair. Marcus Sterling. The king of Chicago futures. A man who moved billions with a keystroke. He thought I was simple. He thought I was just the pretty daughter of a janitor he had met at a charity gala 5 years ago. He thought he had plucked me from obscurity. He had no idea that my obscurity was designed. I picked up my bag. I didn't go to a shelter. I walked 3 blocks to the subway station to get out of the rain. I sat on a bench, shivering, and reached into the hidden lining of my purse. I pulled out a small, velvet pouch. Inside was a card. It wasn't a credit card. It wasn't plastic. It was a heavy, cold slab of matte black titanium. There were no numbers on it. No expiration date. Just a magnetic strip and a single name embossed in silver, Elijah Vance. My father. Marcus knew my father as a janitor who worked at the Federal Reserve Building for 30 years. He died 6 months ago, leaving me nothing but a box of old books and this card. Amara, he had told me on his deathbed, his breathing ragged. People see the uniform. They never see the man. I kept my head down. I mopped the floors. But I listened. And I kept records. He had pressed the card into my hand. If you ever hit rock bottom, if the world ever tries to crush you, go to the sovereign trust. Use the card. But be warned, baby girl. Once you swipe it, the game begins. I had been too scared to use it. Too scared of what it meant. But now? I was homeless. I was broke. And the man I loved had just thrown me away like garbage. I was rock bottom. I took the train downtown. The Sovereign Trust wasn't a normal bank. It was a private wealth depository located in a limestone fortress that looked more like a mausoleum than a financial institution. There were no ATMs. There were no lines. Just a heavy brass door and a security guard who looked like he ate concrete for breakfast. I walked in, dripping wet, clutching my duffel bag. The lobby was silent, smelling of marble and old money. A teller, a young man named Mr. Jenkins, looked at me with open disdain. "Deliveries are in the back, ma'am," he sniffed. "I'm not a delivery," I said, walking to the counter. "I'm a customer." He raised an eyebrow. "This is a private bank, ma'am. Minimum deposit is $10 million. I think you're lost." I'm not lost, I said. I went to use the old card my father had left me. I slid the black titanium card across the marble counter. It made a heavy, scraping sound. Jenkins looked at it. He hesitated. He had never seen a card without numbers. I can't run this, he said. Swipe it, I commanded. My voice wasn't the voice of the librarian anymore. It was the voice of my father's daughter. Jenkins sighed, rolled his eyes, and swiped the card through his terminal. He waited for the decline beep. It didn't come. Instead, his screen flashed red. A silent alarm triggered somewhere in the building. The lights in the lobby dimmed slightly. Jenkins froze. His eyes widened. He tapped his keyboard frantically. What is this?" he whispered. Suddenly, a door behind the counter burst open. An older man, wearing a three-piece suit and a look of absolute terror, rushed out. This was the bank manager, Mr. Henderson. He looked at the screen. He looked at the card. Then he looked at me. The wet, shivering woman with the duffel bag. But the banker turned pale and shouted, "Ma'am, quickly, look at this." He didn't wait for me to come around the counter. He spun the monitor around so I could see. I expected to see a balance. Maybe $50,000. Maybe 100. My father was frugal, maybe he had saved more than I thought. I looked at the screen. There was no balance. There were no numbers. There was just a single, pulsing line of text in bright green code, access granted, the architect. Level, Omega. Status, active. The architect? I whispered. "Ma'am," Mr. Henderson said, his voice trembling. He came around the counter and bowed. Actually bowed. We didn't know he had an heir. We thought the account was dormant. We thought the ledger was lost. The ledger? I asked, my heart pounding. My father, he was a janitor. A janitor? Henderson let out a hysterical, short laugh. "Ms. Vance, your father wasn't a janitor. He was the shadow broker for the Federal Reserve. For 30 years, every off-the-books transaction, every black budget government transfer, every cartel seizure that disappeared, it all went through him. He didn't just mop the floors. He cleaned the money." My knees gave out. I grabbed the counter for support. Is there money?" Henderson looked at me with awe. "Ms. Vance, this isn't a bank account. It's a master key." He tapped a key on the keyboard. A map of the city appeared. Dozens of green dots lit up. "These are the assets," he said. "Warehouses. Safe houses. Shell corporations. And..." He pointed to a specific dot. "A skyscraper." "This building?" I asked. "No," Henderson said. "That is the Sterling Financial Tower. My husband's building. Marcus's headquarters." "Why is it green?" I asked, a cold dread settling in my stomach. "Because," Henderson said, "your father owns the mortgage. He owns the debt. He owns the building." He looked at me. "Marcus Sterling doesn't own his company, Ms. Vance. Your father, and now you, are his landlord. And according to this..." He pointed to a flashing alert, "Mr. Sterling is 3 months behind on his interest payments to the shell company." I was in shock when I discovered that. My husband, the man who had thrown me out for being poor, was actually living in a glass castle owned by the janitor he despised. And I wasn't just rich. I held the deed to his entire existence. "Mr. Henderson," I said, the shock fading, replaced by a cold, calculating fury that felt like inheritance. "What happens when a tenant defaults on a payment to the Omega level?" Henderson swallowed hard. We initiate protocol, eviction." "And what does that entail?" "Total asset seizure. Immediate lockout. And audit of all criminal liabilities." I looked at the rain falling outside. I looked at my cheap coat. Initiate it, I said. Now? No, I said. Not yet. I want to see his face. Does this account grant me access to his internal servers? Ms. Vance, Henderson said, this account grants you access to his webcam. This was the hidden secret suspense. Marcus wasn't just a bad husband. He was a criminal. And he had been laundering money through a system he thought was anonymous. He didn't know he was laundering it through my father. And now, through me. Get me a dry office, I said to Henderson. And get me a computer. I have some banking to do. The office Mr. Henderson ushered me into was not a room, it was a command center. The walls were lined with screens displaying global markets, commodities, and encrypted data streams. It hummed with the quiet, expensive sound of supreme power. I sat in the leather chair, my damp coat dripping onto the plush carpet. I didn't care. I placed the black titanium card on the desk next to the computer terminal. The system is biometric, Ms. Vance, Henderson said, his voice hushed. It requires a retina scan and a voice print. Your father set it up 3 days before he passed. I leaned forward. A red laser swept my eye. Retina verified. Voice phrase required, the computer synthesized. I remembered the last thing my father whispered to me. A phrase that had seemed like nonsense at the time. The janitor holds the keys, I whispered. Access granted. Welcome, Architect 2. The screens flared to life. And there he was. On the center monitor, in high-definition 4K, was Marcus. He was sitting in his office, the office my father owned, laughing. Bianca was sitting on the edge of his desk, pouring champagne. To the single life, Marcus toasted, clinking his glass against hers. And to getting rid of dead weight. She's really gone? Bianca asked, sipping her drink. She won't cause trouble? Amara? Marcus scoffed. She's a mouse. She's probably crying at a bus stop right now. She has no money, no lawyer, and no spine. We're clear. I watched them. I watched the man I had loved for 5 years dismiss me like a piece of trash. But I wasn't looking at his face anymore. I was looking at the data stream running alongside the video feed. The master key didn't just give me a camera, it gave me the books. My father had bugged the building. Electronically, financially, and physically. He had been watching Marcus for years. Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice steady. Walk me through his liquidity. Henderson typed on a side keyboard. Marcus Sterling, currently leveraged at 80%. He projects wealth, but his cash flow is entirely dependent on the Argus Fund. It's a high-yield, high-risk portfolio. Who backs the Argus Fund? I asked. Henderson hesitated. It's opaque. Shell companies in the Caymans. But the routing numbers, they match the profile of the Sinaloa cartel. The hidden secret suspense clicked into place. Marcus wasn't just a trader. He was a launderer. He was washing drug money through the Chicago futures market. That's why he needed a simple wife. Someone who wouldn't ask questions about late-night calls or sudden trips. And that's why he needed a CFO like Bianca, someone dirty enough to help him cook the books. He's skimming, I said, pointing to an anomaly in the scrolling numbers. Look there. The maintenance fees. He's pulling 5% off the top of the cartel's money and funneling it into a private account. A suicide mission, Henderson whispered, wiping sweat from his forehead. If they find out. They won't find out from him, I said. They'll find out from the audit. I looked at the screen. I looked at Marcus's smug, laughing face. He said I have no spine, I murmured. Let's see how well he stands when I remove his. Phase 1, the eviction. Mr. Henderson, I said. Does the lease on the Sterling Tower have a morality clause or a criminal activity breach? Standard Clause 14, Henderson nodded. Any illegal activity on the premises voids the lease immediately. The landlord, you, has the right to lock out. And the debt? The building loan is callable upon breach of lease. Call it, I said. And kill the power to the elevators. I want them to walk down. Phase 2, the freeze. I navigated to the banking interface. My father's system, the shadow broker network, had backdoors into the major clearing houses. I located Marcus's personal accounts. The ones he thought were secure. The ones he was using to pay for his new life with Bianca. I didn't steal the money. That would be a crime. I simply flagged them. I tagged his accounts with a DOJ, Department of Justice, Suspicious Activity Report code. It was a fake code, generated by my father's system, but to the banking algorithms, it looked real. His cards would freeze. His assets would lock. He would be financially paralyzed. Phase 3, the revelation. I looked at the file marked Amara Insurance. My father had left it. I opened it. It wasn't money. It was a document. A forged power of attorney and a life insurance policy on me. Marcus had taken it out a year ago. If I died, he got $10 million. And worse, there was a second document. A confession. It was a pre-written suicide note, typed on my computer, signed with a forgery of my signature. It confessed to embezzlement. It confessed to stealing from the cartel. He was planning to frame me. He wasn't just throwing me out. He was setting me up to be the thief the cartel would come looking for. He was going to feed me to the wolves to cover his own skimming. A cold, white rage filled me. It replaced the shivering. It replaced the heartbreak. He was going to get me killed, I whispered. Ma'am? Henderson asked. He was going to let them kill me for his debt, I said. I looked at the screen. Turn it all off, Mr. Henderson. Every light. Every server. Every credit card. Turn off his life. Marcus was laughing at something Bianca said. He raised his glass. Click. The lights went out. The hum of the servers died. The music cut off. The office was plunged into gray, rainy daylight. What the hell? Marcus snapped. Bianca, call building management. The power's out. Bianca pulled out her phone. No signal. My Wi-Fi is down. Marcus checked his phone. Mine too. What is going on? His desk phone rang. It was the only thing working. He picked it up. This is Sterling. Fix the power, now. Mr. Sterling, a robotic voice said. This is Sovereign Trust Security. Your lease has been terminated due to violation of Clause 14. You have 30 minutes to vacate the premises before the locks are permanently engaged. Terminated? Marcus screamed. I own this floor. I pay the rent. Who is this? The landlord, the voice said. And the line went dead. It's a glitch, Marcus said, his voice rising in pitch. It has to be. Come on, let's go to lunch. We'll sort this out from the club. He grabbed his wallet. He grabbed Bianca. They walked to the elevators. The buttons were dead. 40 floors, Bianca whined. We have to walk? Fine. Marcus yelled. We walk. They trudged down 40 flights of stairs in the dark stairwell. By the time they reached the lobby, they were sweating, disheveled, and angry. Marcus marched to the front desk security guard. You. Why are the elevators down? I'm going to sue the building management. The guard, a burly man who had worked there for years, looked at Marcus. He looked at a message on his tablet. Mr. Sterling, the guard said, stepping forward to block the exit. I need your building pass. And your keys. What? No. Hand them over, or you are trespassing. Marcus threw his pass at the guard. Fine. Keep it. I'm going to the bank. I'll buy this whole damn building and fire you. He stormed out into the rain, Bianca trailing behind him. He went to his car, a sleek, black Aston Martin parked at the curb. He pressed the unlock button on his key fob. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Nothing. The car was connected to the network. And the network had locked him out. Damn it, he kicked the tire. Bianca, call an Uber. I can't, she said, staring at her phone. My card, it was declined on the app. It says account frozen. Marcus pulled out his wallet. He ran into the coffee shop next door. Double espresso, he barked. And call a cab. He tapped his black card. Beep. Declined, the barista said boredly. Try it again. Marcus shouted. That card has $1 million limit. Beep. Declined. It says. Seized by DOJ authority. Marcus froze. DOJ, he whispered. Department of Justice? He looked at Bianca. Her face was pale. Marcus, she whispered. If the feds froze the accounts, that means they know. They know about the laundering. No, Marcus said, his hands shaking. No, we hid it. We used the shell companies. They can't know. His phone rang. It wasn't the bank. It wasn't the building. It was a number he recognized. It was the client. The cartel contact. Marcus stared at the phone as if it were a bomb. Answer it, Bianca hissed. If you ignore them, they kill you. Marcus answered. Hello? Mr. Sterling, a deep voice said. We are experiencing a discrepancy. Our accounts show a transfer was initiated. But the money did not arrive in Mexico. It seems to be held. It's a bank error. Marcus stammered. A glitch. I'm handling it. Handling it, the voice was calm, which was worse. We also received an interesting email. An anonymous tip. It contained a ledger. A ledger showing a 5% maintenance fee being skimmed from our deposits for the last 2 years. Marcus stopped breathing. We do not pay maintenance fees, Mr. Sterling. We pay for results. You have 1 hour to unlock our funds. And you have 1 hour to explain the missing 5%. If you do not, we will liquidate our asset. Do you understand? 1 hour. Click. Marcus dropped the phone. He stood in the rain, water soaking his expensive suit. He was broke. He was homeless. He was locked out. And he had a death mark on his head. Who, he screamed at the sky. Who is doing this? Who knows? I sat in the command center, watching him on the street surveillance camera. I sipped a hot cup of tea Mr. Henderson had brought me. He's asking who, I said softly. Should we tell him? Henderson asked. Not yet, I said. He needs to come to me. He needs to realize that the only person who can save him is the wife he threw away. I typed a message on the secure terminal. It would send a text to Marcus's phone, spoofing the number of his lawyer. Text, Marcus, come to the Sovereign Trust immediately. There is a way to unfreeze the assets. But you need a co-signer. The original guarantor. Marcus looked at his phone. The guarantor, he muttered. Who is the guarantor? He didn't know. He had never read the fine print of the loan my father had secretly secured for him years ago to start his firm. The guarantor was Elijah Vance. And upon his death, the guarantor became Amara Vance. We have to go to the Sovereign Trust, Marcus told Bianca. There's a way out. They ran through the rain, heading toward the limestone fortress where I sat, waiting on the throne. The heavy brass doors of the Sovereign Trust groaned open. Marcus and Bianca stumbled into the lobby, dripping wet, their expensive clothes plastered to their skin, their faces pale with exhaustion and terror. They looked like shipwreck survivors washing up on a hostile shore. The lobby was empty, save for Mr. Henderson, who stood by the entrance to the main vault corridor, his hands clasped behind his back. "Mr. Sterling," Henderson said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "You are late." "The traffic, the rain." Marcus panted, wiping water from his eyes. "Where is the guarantor? Where is Elijah Vance? I need him to sign." "The cartel, the client gave us an hour." Henderson didn't smile. He just gestured toward the massive, circular steel door of the main vault at the end of the hall. It was open, revealing a room bathed in soft, golden light. "The guarantor is waiting for you inside, sir." Marcus grabbed Bianca's hand and ran toward the light. He was running toward his salvation. He thought he was running toward an old janitor he could bully or bribe. He burst into the vault. And he stopped dead. The vault wasn't filled with gold bars or stacks of cash. It was an office. A private, hardened sanctuary lined with screens and servers. And sitting behind the desk, dry, calm, and holding a cup of tea, was me. "Hello, Marcus," I said. Marcus blinked, water dripping from his nose. He looked around the room. "Amara? What are you doing here? Where is your father? Where is Elijah?" "My father is dead, Marcus," I said, my voice flat. "You know that. You skipped the funeral to play golf." "Then who?" He looked at the empty chair next to me. "Who is the guarantor?" "I am," I said. I placed the black titanium card on the desk. "I am the sole heir to the Vance estate. I am the owner of the Sovereign Trust's Omega level. And I am the one who froze your accounts." Bianca let out a small, strangled squeak. "You? But, you're poor. You're a librarian." "I am an archivist," I corrected. "And my father was the shadow broker. You thought he was a janitor because he cleaned up messes. And right now, Marcus, you are a very big mess." Marcus stepped forward, his face twisting in confusion and rage. "This is a joke. You hacked the system. You stole this." "I inherited it," I said. "Just like you tried to steal my life insurance." $10 million, Marcus? Was that all I was worth to you?" He froze. How do you know about that?" "I own the bank," I reminded him. "I see every transaction. I see the premium payments. I see the forgery." I stood up. I walked around the desk. "You came here for a signature," I said. "You need the assets unfrozen before the client kills you. Is that right?" "Yes." Marcus screamed, falling to his knees. "Amara, please. They are not businessmen. They are butchers. If I don't pay them back the 5% I skimmed, they will cut me into pieces. You have to help me. You're my wife." "I'm your ex-wife," I said. "You threw me out. Remember?" "I was stressed," he begged. "I was trying to protect you." "Liar," I said calmly. "You were trying to frame me. I saw the suicide note, Marcus. You were going to kill me and make it look like I stole the money." I looked at the clock on the wall. "You have 10 minutes before the client arrives," I said. "Arrives? Here?" "I invited him," I said. "I told him his missing money was here. In the vault." Marcus scrambled backward, crab walking on the floor. You called them? You killed us." "I didn't call them to kill you," I said. "I called them to make a trade." The elevator at the back of the vault chimed. The door slid open. 2 men walked out. They were not wearing suits. They were wearing leather jackets. One of them held a briefcase. The other held a silenced pistol. The client. A man known only as Vargas. Marcus whimpered and hid behind Bianca. Bianca was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Vargas looked at Marcus. He looked at me. "Ms. Vance," Vargas said, his voice like gravel. "You have my money?" I do, I said. I tapped a key on the keyboard. I just transferred the missing 5%, plus a 10% inconvenience fee, back into your account. The ledger is balanced. Vargas checked his phone. He nodded. The debt is paid. He looked at Marcus. But we do not tolerate thieves, Ms. Vance. He stole from us. He must be disciplined. Marcus screamed. Amara. Pay him. Pay him whatever he wants. Don't let them take me. I looked at Vargas. Mr. Vargas, I said. You operate in the shadows. You value discretion. I do. If you kill him, I said, it brings heat. Police. Investigation. It's messy. I picked up a file folder from the desk. My father kept records, I said. He kept records of everyone. Including you. Vargas stiffened. His man raised the gun. I wouldn't, I warned. That file is already uploaded to a dead man switch. If I die, it goes to the FBI, Interpol, and the Sinaloa rivals. Vargas lowered his hand. You play a dangerous game, librarian. I'm the architect now, I said. I am offering you a trade, I continued. You walk away. You leave him alive. In exchange, I wipe your file from my father's database. You get a clean slate. He gets to live. Vargas looked at Marcus, huddled on the floor. He looked at the file in my hand. A clean slate is worth more than one dead thief, Vargas decided. He nodded to me. A pleasure, architect. He turned and walked out, his men following. The vault door hissed shut behind them. Marcus let out a long, ragged breath. He laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. You did it, he gasped. You saved me. Oh, God, Amara, you saved me. I knew you loved me. I knew it. He stood up, reaching for me. We can start over. With your money, with my connections, we can rule this city. We'll be partners. Real partners. I stepped back. Partners? I asked. Yes. You have the capital, I have the face. We'll be unstoppable. I looked at him. He hadn't learned a thing. He thought he had one. He thought I was still the simple woman he could manipulate. Marcus, I said gently. I saved you from the cartel because I didn't want them to kill you. I know, baby, I know. I saved you, I continued, because I wanted to give you to someone else. I pressed a button on the desk. The wall behind me, a glass partition I had opaque until now, turned clear. Standing in the observation room were 4 people. 2 FBI agents. 1 SEC prosecutor. And the district attorney. They had seen everything. They had heard the confession about the skimming. They had heard him beg for his life. They had heard him admit to the forgery. Marcus stared at them. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. You wore a wire, he whispered. I wore a building, I said. This entire room is a recording device. My father built it for depositions. The side door opened. The agents walked in. Marcus Sterling, the lead agent, said. You are under arrest for money laundering, embezzlement, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. They cuffed him. He didn't fight. He was catatonic. He just stared at me. Bianca, the agent said, turning to her. You are under arrest as an accessory. As they dragged Marcus out, he looked at me one last time. You were a janitor's daughter, he spat. You were nothing. I was the landlord, I said. And you were just a bad tenant. Eviction complete. The resolution. The trial was swift. Marcus, facing both the federal charges and the terrified knowledge that the cartel was watching him, pleaded guilty to everything in exchange for protective custody. He was sentenced to 30 years. He spends his days in solitary confinement, safe from the cartel, but locked in a cage of his own making. My legacy was not a foundation. It was a revolution. I took over the sovereign trust. I became the new shadow broker, but I changed the rules. I used my father's leverage, the ledgers, not to hoard secrets, but to clean the city. I forced corrupt judges to resign. I exposed dirty cops. I cut off the funding for the gangs that plagued the neighborhoods where I grew up. I became the ghost of Chicago. The invisible hand that corrected the balance sheets of justice. And the Sterling Tower? I renamed it the Vance Building. I turned the penthouse, Marcus's old office, into my library. I filled it with my father's books. Every morning, I sit in that chair, drinking tea from my favorite mug, looking out over the city I quietly, secretly, run. Marcus thought I was a pauper because I took the bus. He didn't realize that I took the bus because I liked to be close to the people I protected. He chased gold. I held the iron. And in the end, iron always breaks gold. What this story teaches us is that you never judge a book by its cover, especially if that book contains the ledger of your crimes. And never, ever assume the person holding the mop isn't also holding the keys to the castle. If you believe that the quietest victories are the sweetest, hit that like button. And subscribe to this channel, because we are unlocking the truth, one secret at a time. We'll see you in the next one.